Alright, so yesterday we worked on amplitude and period changes on the sine graph. Today we're going to finish up any transformation that we have, and we're going to throw in horizontal phase shifts and a vertical shift. And those are just vertical and horizontal translations. Think of them that way, shifting it left and right and up and down. So yesterday we had A and B introduced. Now we're going to throw in C and D. So it's very nice because it goes in order. You have A, B, C, D. So that helps remember. We said A was the amplitude. B affects the period, so 2 pi over B gives you the period, so that's why we say B is period. C, the number inside your parentheses with the B, is going to affect the horizontal movement. So if you look down here, and I would write this down, negative C over B will give you the horizontal shift. That's the amount we're moving to the left or right. Then the last number that you see outside of your parentheses is your vertical movement, and whatever that number is how you move up or down. So what this will look like, for our first problem, we have 2 sine of x minus pi plus 1. So go through and list out all of your properties. Amplitude is 2. Period, well, my b value is 1, so my period, is 2 pi over 1, which is 2 pi. A horizontal shift, so that's the next thing we find, and it just goes in order. We're going to take our negative c, so negative pi makes it positive pi, over b, which is 1, tells me I am shifting to the right pi units. Then that plus 1 tells me I am moving up 1. So everything that I have over here is going to help me to turn this into a graph. So now we're going to draw our x and y. I always start with the vertical shift, so we're moving up 1. What that's doing is it's moving my x-axis up 1. Now I take care of the amplitude. So my amplitude is 2, which means I'm going to go 2 units above my new x-axis, so I'm going to go all the way up to 3, and I'm going to go 2 units below. So now it helps if you put a dashed line so that we know everything on my sine graph has to fall between the top and the bottom dashed line. Now we can take care of our shift, and the last thing that you take care of is your period, so we're going to shift it horizontally to the right pi units. Let me back up a little bit. Because my period is 2 pi, that means 2 pi over 4. We are going to have intervals of pi over 2 units. So as you can see up here. So each tick mark is going to be pi over 2. So I'm just going to label pi and 2 pi just so it doesn't get as messy. So now we're going to shift to the right pi units. So I'm going to start it up 1. That is my new x-axis. So that's what that vertical shift did. From here, I am traveling 2 pi units. So if I just stop here at 2 pi, I have only traveled a distance of 1 pi. So I'm going to continue this graph out until we hit 3 pi so that I know everything is going to happen between 1 pi and 3 pi. That gives me my total period of 2 pi. Halfway between it's going to turn around, and then halfway between here it's going to hit its maximum and minimum. Connect your points, and there is your translated sine graph. So those dashed lines help. It shows you where your maximum and minimum points are. You can take your period, cut it in half, and that's your main turning point. Then you can cut it into fourths or cut that interval in half, and that's where it hits the highest and lowest. Now we've got a negative, so my amplitude is 1/2. We've got a period of 2 pi over 1, which is 2 pi once again. Horizontal shift, so negative c over b, which is 1, so we're moving to the left pi over 2 units this time. And then the minus 1 tells me I'm shifting it down 1. So then we're going to come over here. We're going to do my vertical shift to negative 1. Then we're going to look at my amplitude. So I'm actually going to move this just so that it's not super tiny. So I'm going to make this negative 1. Because my amplitude is only 1/2, I'm going to go to negative 1/2 and put my first line, that's the maximum. Then I'm going to go to negative 1 and 1/2, and that's the minimum. So that's the highest and the lowest that this graph will ever go. Then we take care of the horizontal shift. So because my period is 2 pi, that means every interval is going to be pi over 2 units long. I'm going to go ahead and put them in both directions because I know I'm shifting to the left, so I'm going to have to go backwards this time. So this would be negative pi, negative 2 pi. This would be positive pi, positive 2 pi. We're going to go down to my new x-axis, which is from the vertical shift, and we're going to go back negative pi over 2 units. That's my starting point. Then I have a period of 2 pi total units. So instead of stopping at 2 pi like I would have if I started at the origin, I'm shifting it to the left 1 unit. So I'm going to stop at 3 pi over 2. Halfway between, I'm going to change direction. If this had been a positive a, I would go up, down, follow through, and back around, but because we're going to reflect it, we're going to start by going down first. So halfway between negative pi over 2 and positive pi over 2 is 0. That's where it hits its minimum. Halfway between pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2 is pi. That's where it hits its maximum. As long as you take care of the division of the interval, you take your period and divide it by 4, this process will work every single time. You can cut it in half, draw your 3 points, and then halfway between go to the highest and lowest, and that will create your graph every single time. If you want, you can erase the dashed lines, but I just like to leave them. And then our last problem, amplitude is 1. Period this time is 2 pi over 2, which is just 1 pi. Horizontal shift is going to be pi over 2 because we do negative c divided by 2. That gives me a pi over 2. We're going up 3 vertically. We're going to put this into my graph. So this time I'm going to do my vertical shift. We're going up to positive 3. My amplitude is 1, so I'm going to go 1 above it to 4 and 1 below it to 2. Everything's going to happen between those dashed lines. We have a horizontal shift of pi over 2 and a period of pi. So this time, when I draw my 4 marks, I know that we're going to divide pi into pi over 4. So this is going to be pi over 2. This is going to be pi. This would be pi over 4 and 3 pi over 4 if you want to fill those in. So we're going to shift it to the right, pi over 2. There's my starting point right in the center. We're going to go a total of 1 pi unit long. So now if I stopped at pi, that's only half pi. We've got to go all the way to 3 pi over 2. I'm going to continue those dashed lines. That tells me if I put my start and stop point the total of 1 pi unit away, everything between there will take care of itself. So halfway between it changes. It's a positive a and a positive b, so that means we're going to go up, then down. And there are a fully translated sine function graph.